So here we are in the second game, with ZertoN down here in the blue, and JustPlainSvage up here in the green. Another RVR. With these players, we can expect that that's all we're going to see. Very powerful race, very traditional race. The first race in the game. Both of these players know this race very well, enjoy this race. And this right here, Penguin Paradise, everyone's favourite. This is the map where JustPlainSvage's style works the greatest. As I said, probably every time I've cast on this map, even though it is technically a 6-player map, it has one of the shortest rush distances of all of the competitive maps in this game. Every quick match map has a longer rush distance than this. I believe that is actually entirely true. The only ones that I think Alien Atolls ends up being longer by ground, shorter by air, and I think River Towns might end up being close, but I don't even think that. I think this is the shortest. I'm pretty sure this is the shortest rush distance, especially for an army that isn't going to be able to crush buildings. So, again, this is absolutely standard Renegades versus Renegades. Nothing changes until after this gets put down. The interesting thing, the difference here in the two players is the way that they are building. JustPlainSvage in his very aggressive style, building straight towards ZertoN. ZertoN building out to the front and then back on himself to move away from JustPlainSvage. I do not know, unfortunately, whether this is how he normally builds on this map. I feel like against a worse player, he would probably just build forward. And perhaps even against a less aggressive player, he might build more forward, or at least more sort of sideways. More like, I think it also comes into the fact that he has the high ground base here, which you really don't want to mine off. So one of these does really become the next base you want to go to. And this one's closer to your other refinery, so it does just make sense. I wonder if this is just the way he plays on this map. But once again, JustPlainSvage is going for that tank rush. He is just massing up forces down here, and he's going to try and hit ZertoN before he has anything. ZertoN is going for an entirely traditional ZertoN build, straight into that radar, and after this, straight into rocket chopters, I can only assume. So really, this fight is hitting at a sort of good time, because his production is just starting to kick in and just starting to become overwhelming to ZertoN's. I'm theory crafting things here, but my knowledge of RVR is nowhere near as good as either of these players, so I'm just going to hold. Now, this is an interesting decision, because the decision he has made here, JustPlainSvage, is to go for this headquarters. But without the micro there, that fails. That fails pretty bad as well. Yet again in these games, another really big crush, because putting all that effort into destroying this becomes useless unless he destroys it. And losing all those rocket troopers there really blunts his aggressive force and destroys it. If he'd managed to split those rocket choppers up, I would really like rocket troopers. I would really like to see some pre-splits there on rocket troopers, because now he just has such a small army, and if he'd managed to take that out, or if he'd even just managed to keep troops in there longer, then this attack here would have done much better. But now he just has tanks sitting under rocket choppers doing not much. And then his other tanks here are pushing in on the early points, but artillery is coming out for ZertoN. Like I said, what's artillery's job? Artillery's job is to just demolish these. So even if there are no more crushes coming in from ZertoN, the artillery is going to start, if an artillery shell hits these guys while they're standing still trying to take out these rocket choppers, that's going to be a really bad deal for JustPlainSvage. I'm so sad for Savage, because if he'd managed to kill this, if he'd managed to not have those big crushes on those rocket troopers, I think this could be an entirely different game. I think that one mistake there is what's making this so hard, because this is still quite successful. He's taken out a power. He's taken out 2 powers now, I believe. He's entirely unpowered ZertoN's forces. He could very well still win this game from the position he is in. But he's given himself such a hard time, or he's been given by ZertoN, maybe is more a fair way to say it, such a hard time by that excellent crush going on all of his troops there. And now that his force over here has been cleaned up by these choppers, it has really blunted his aggression. Now, he did manage to take up the radar, which is just rebuilt, so there are some MG choppers, but the MG choppers are actually also going to be just useful for dealing with the rocket choppers, because he actually has no ground at the moment, so the tanks are only fighting against just destroying buildings, and they are useless in the fights. This fight is now essentially all rocket troopers versus choppers. He is, yes, I was thinking to say this, he is building more barracks, realizing this fact that he needs rocket troopers to kill these choppers. That is what he has to do, because he's not going to be able to go into choppers now and get more choppers, so he needs to just have his rocket troopers kill these choppers while these do damage, but they're just filing in here, just getting killed. I think he needs to amass his rocket troopers here and then push in while his tanks are in here doing a bit of damage and getting some harass. He maybe would want to throw a few tanks back here as well to split up that army more. If he can kill this, this will be really good. He's managed to keep dodging these artillery shots pretty well, and now he's massing up some rocket troopers. This is what's really important, because without this he can't be there. But look at all these MG choppers. There's so many MG choppers which are just going to cut through these. ZertoN has also realised that the fight is between choppers and rocket infantry, so he only needs enough rocket choppers to cull these numbers of tanks so that he doesn't lose all his buildings. That's all he needs. He doesn't need any more than that in terms of rocket choppers, and you know, 3 or 4 of them, which is about what he has, is enough. And actually every rocket chopper that these rocket infantry shoot down is great, and now he's making more rocket infantry of himself, which is a smart idea, because they will help deal with the tanks, and every shot they tank from one of JustPlainSvage's rocket choppers or rocket troopers is just damage which isn't going up against these guys. And now that that attack has been held off, this attack comes in, and this is undefendable from JustPlainSvage. This is going to be a GG. He's made these armoured cars very smartly. Maybe if he'd started making these earlier, he would have had a better chance, because these will help him against these, but they're not going to help him much, are they? I don't think they do great damage versus air. So it sort of becomes a question, really. And now, here, as this game has calmed down, what you're seeing from ZertoN's side is a small, mind you, but the makings of a late game Renegades army. Whereas what you're seeing from JustPlainSvage is, I mean, tier 1. And there we go, there the GG comes out as JustPlainSvage realizes. So, that is an example of his tank crush going better. If he hadn't had that crush, I very much believe he would have absolutely won this game. But yeah, ZertoN, because he had the tech, when he managed to just hold off that attack, he could immediately start making his tier 3 army. Whereas JustPlainSvage was immediately making a tier 1 army, which isn't any use.